Hello everyone and welcome to Garrock Farms. In today's video, my father's going to show you his heifer barn slash dry cow barn. He's going to go through his thought process of why he built it the way he built it and set the gates up the way he did and show you guys the mangers and just the entire layout of the barn. To give you guys a quick overview, this barn was built 2 years ago, and the old barn that was in the same spot was about half the size. It was falling apart. It was really old, and he needed to upgrade. So he built this. It was timed out really well. It was right before the lumber shortage. It's a very pretty looking barn. I know a lot of you have been commenting about it, so we thought we'd make a video about it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so we built this building in 2019. We could call it our COVID project. The kids got out of school early that year. Nothing was going on, no graduations, no nothing. So it was a perfect time. And at my age, I thought, if we don't do this now, we maybe shouldn't do it anymore. I mean, if it's just for my career. But anyway, so we decided, let's do it. So in June, we started this, where we tore down the old one. The old one was just a 32 by 56, I think it was. And it was added on to several times. And so this building actually for square footage is about double. And we have a hard time squeezing it in here because we're in between two large hills and we got a waterway in the middle, so we had to take that all in consideration when we were trying to make more room here. We are 40 by 90. That's out to the end of the rafter. But the actual post, from post to post, it's 36 by 90. And then we got 2-foot overhang on each end, which I really wanted that for the sake of the doors so the snow doesn't come up so tight. And I wanted the 8-foot overhang over our mangers. So we got an extra 4 feet out here. So this lamb ply truss, we hung out further to get that. We got it split into 2 different pens, which we have our breeding pen, which is in the front, so we can see it from the yard when we work. We can see when animals are in heat. We usually have a bull, and if we don't, then I can see them in heat, and I'm able to artificially inseminate them on time. And in the back half, or the back 2/3, is our dry cows and our spring and heifers, or anything we know is pregnant, shortbred and up. And then there's a lot on each end. And on this end, we really got to thinking with these steel wheels. I mean, we ended up with quite a bit of this stuff back in the day when you could find them everywhere, and we started thinking, let's put them in something practical. And it was a little bit of a thought, but we were able to get these things cemented in, and these are literally forever. Up on that gable, we were kind of thinking of putting that clear, and you can see in the back, there's that clear stuff. You see that in barns. But I've seen that stuff, even the really good stuff, get so faded and brittle, and we weren't so sure if we should do this on the north side, so we put oak boards up there, and we put a veneer varnish on them. And it's got a little bit of a crack in between each board from the board shrinking after they were sawn, but again, that's just ventilation. But and we're going to show you how we would catch an animal in here if we had to treat her for something ever, or any kind of vet work of some kind. So when we built this barn, we mounted some gates to the wall. We mounted them high enough because in the bedding pack in the winter months, the manure would get, or the bedding in that would get higher. So we got a long chain here, and I just got a simple hook on the end just to hook it for storage. But for instance, we could get an animal in behind here and adjust this gate to whoever size the animal is. So she's sandwiched in there, so she's not able to be wobbling around and hurt herself during whatever we might have to do with her. And all this is a gate mounted to the wall, and the neat thing is we made this so it fits tight here. And this gate that closes our opening over there, we could use as a catcher to get an animal caught. And on this side, the same thing. And in the wall here, I put like an old horseshoe or any type of old iron. We cemented into our concrete. We actually stapled it to the forms. So I'm able to have a place to tie stuff on. And again, I can adjust that however I need to adjust that. Or I can even put it through here and rehook it back, and that prevents my animal from backing up against me if I had to get in here to artificially inseminate or have her check her for a calf or something. It makes it very easy to take care of our animals. So now this wall splits our pens. And what we have down in here, I have two of those wear plates for our skid steer bucket that were wore down. I put down into the concrete, and we bolted these oak planks to it to get a little extra height off our 4-foot wall. We got a railroad tie in here, and then over here this is just some scrap iron from an old plow that we had cemented into our curb, and angle iron up here onto our bunk, and then I always like to do this because every gate comes with a chain, and they've been known to break, so we always put another chain, and then we put the snapper on the back side so nothing can actually undo it. And we could go one step further and put like a bolt here so this chain never gets lost from the gate. Like when you're cleaning pens, we've had them where we shut the gate and then where's the chain? It's out with the manure some way. So just an extra something, and there's nothing worse than when you got two large groups of cattle completely mixed up, and causes a lot of stress on the cattle trying to sort them back out. So here, like this is the north side of our barn. So like in the winter months where storms are coming and the wind's really blowing hard, I like to shut it at night. They get out for a little sun, a little exercise outside the barn, but I made this latch because I used to have a bull that used to always stick her head behind this and rip these things right off the hinges. So on the other end, again, it's just some scrap iron that the door tucks behind. So there's no, the theory is if the door moves, they play with it and they just eventually ruin it. Now on this side, we have another catcher, and that's just some scrap iron to put it up high enough so no cattle could get hurt by it. And we don't have any handle on this door, nothing for these cattle to bump against or rub against. And even on our corners of our buildings here, I put angle iron because this is always a spot that they end up ruining the steel and the tin, so it stays more secure. So we put our door into our pocket. And then on this side, I designed something where I cut a groove into this plate, took a little fabrication, I bolted it, and the same latch holds the door from the wind. And then we have a gate here. I don't always shut it, but I say this door is going to be shut because it's going to be below zero for a week. We'll shut this gate so the cattle do not ruin our door. We'll just tie it to one of the rungs here. On the bottom, I got a piece of old baler belt so it can flex a little as the frost lifts the concrete, as the manure builds up and freezes down. We can still get our door open and shut without having problems. There's maybe 3 or 4 inches there for buildup. So here we're going to show you our openers. Now some people have curtains, and there's other things you can buy, but they never seem to last. And I made these. This is only open during the summer. Usually by early October we just shut them. We leave our doors open on the end. That's more than enough ventilation. But in the summer, the more you can get, the better. So, and that's between every post all the way down. They took a little while to build, but that's just standard roofing steel on the sides, 2x4s, and then the hinge is a small strap welded to like a, it could be a piece of re-rod or something, maybe about 4 or 5 inches long, drilled into the post. It's a little bit of trick to get everything figured out so it balances right, so it actually stays open by the weight of the, so you got a little more on the top half than the bottom. Once you get a pattern figured out, it isn't too bad. And then up here, these latches, I mean, again, that's just some light steel. Drill the hole through, don't tighten the bolt too tight, just a lag bolt. That's just to keep the wind from pushing it open. It doesn't, no cattle can come against it or anything like that, so they're gonna stay good forever. And they're high enough so that the tractors can't bump them on the outside. Okay, so now this is mostly our dry cow heifer pen. Now this pen, we got a division in here now, and sometimes we put cornstalk bales here, or hay, or maybe a small group in the middle we can put. But what I did when we put this barn together, when we poured our floor, I got to thinking, what if I want to divide this pen up or not? You don't know sometimes. So what I did is we put like a piece of pipe in the concrete, but it's just temporary. And there's another one right here. And I got a block of wood down in it so it didn't pack full of manure, so I could dig it out with a crowbar or something. And then on the wall here I've got, they had a piece of a plow beam and another piece of hollow pipe that fits down in those holes so I can prop my gates. And it's deep lined up directly with another water cup so that if I had cattle in this center pen, they still got water. And then we put it up against this door edge. We put a door in the side. Like right now we got a few extra milking cows that just come here to load. And then these auto latches we bought. Now these are really slick. These are kind of the Cadillac of the... And when there's one guy, and they can go both ways, and they don't get them open. They're flush on top, so it's just a finger that gets them open. These are some heavy gates. These are custom made and they're very expensive, but we don't use them everywhere, but we use them in critical places. Okay, so then in here, we made an extra catch area. So now we got several different lots. So when I want to clean that barn out, I can put one half of that barn into this pen, the other half of that barn into that pen, and we're able to clean our barn out with no cattle in our way. And we made it here, so we put a post here. We got a gate up here that comes around to close this area off. This is permanent, this part, and that's just an old gate with the bottom rung rusted off. It's just lag bolted to it, chained to it, nothing special. And on this side, we made like a place to hang it. Because the cattle, this is where they come outside for recess or whatever. And without this gate hung, they have a tendency to play with it. And it's really hard on the hinges, so that almost like... And then I made it so that I can pull this pipe out. If that gets in the way, if we gotta get in here with a concrete truck or some load of feed or something, if it happens to be a problem, we're able to remove it. To make ourselves more room. And then I make a lot of these chains up. Gates always come with a chain, but they're never very good. We always use another one, and we got oodles of these around the farm. But the trick is to always make sure they're snap shut so they're not lost. They don't get lost in the manure. And then here's where this other gate would tie. This one would come around, and just a big bolt that goes through the post. Some simple linkage stuff. I mean, it doesn't take much. It costs a few dollars, and you got a good, secure, quick system. This is off an old corn picker. Again, there's thread on the other end. It's just a big, huge U-bolt is what it is. It really doesn't matter what you use. It just worked pretty good here where it went through an oak plank. I just got a big log hook with its own self-locker to keep it locked and a piece of log chain. And like again, I never trust these when you got large groups of cattle in a pen. And then we got concrete here, and I thought, how am I going to drill through that? So we went through up higher. Now the back door, we put a little thought into this. The old barn that used to be here was only about half the size, and it was coming apart. There was rotted off posts, and there was a door in the back that ended up getting so busted up I ended up cutting off the back half, and I really liked that, or the bottom half. The cattle could come outside, but you could shut the door to block the wind. And then I put a piece of baler belt here on the bottom, so if the cows are riding, they're not like banging the door. They only need just enough so they can clear it. And the skid steer won't fit under it, but that's okay. Usually we gotta open it anyway for that. So in here, I didn't have to make as heavy of a hook. I just got a simple little hook just to keep the wind from banging it, because up here higher, the cattle aren't gonna do nothing way up here. So that's just open like that, and it just glides open. So you do your skid steer work. We have this barn designed so I can drive through one of my chopper wagons full of corn stalks or a bale rack full of hay. So we got 12-foot doors, so we can go through it some. I made sure that we could and drive out the other end or vice versa. And then here, I kind of did the same thing. Door becomes behind the latch again, so in the summer this is open, it's secured down, it's not flopping in the wind. And then this little hook that's here is set in the same place. I got a bolt through there. It's just tight enough so it can't unhook by itself. Real simple, but yet so the cattle don't get the best of it. And then here again on the corner, we put these angle irons on because I'm an old barn. All the steel here was always wrinkled and tore up like it will get. So we protected that. And it took a lot of thought when we put this barn together. because we were pouring concrete, it's always an afterthought to get the bottom hinge through there. I cut pieces of pipe just slightly under 8 inches because it's an 8-inch wall, and I had to figure out my inches from the floor, which I think I'm at 16 inches. There's a little bit of adjustment in some of these gates, but not a lot. But there's a piece of pipe through there. So I didn't have to drill that one. But the upper one was going to go through wood, so I wasn't worried about that one. I could drill through the wood wherever I needed. So we were able to mount our gates, and that's done on the other end the same way. And there's several other places where I wanted to put gates. So it took a lot of thought and a little bit of measuring ahead of time. And it saved a lot of drilling concrete, which if you ever had to drill concrete, you'll be tired. So then out here, these rafters are designed for 12-foot span. And ever since we had all the big snows and the roofs caving in here several years back, these companies that build these rafters start telling the buyers, put it to where you think you should have it. What kind of weight load you want? So we were going to go to 10 foot, and we decided, well, maybe for an extra $1,000, let's go to 8 foot. That's that much more secure. We may not have to shovel this roof off if it gets like that again, which it probably will. So then on every other rafter, we got a light bulb right above the manger all the way down. And on the inside, we got another row of light bulbs just over the row top of the cattle. And they're both on a separate switch. So you don't necessarily have to have everything turned on. But we had a little experience with the old barn where we ended up with a drinking cup. And I think one of these were in the back, just like this. I had on a big block. I had it up a little higher, but you always had to crawl in there. It was dark back there, and you always had to crawl in there to check it, especially when it's cold, or make sure. In here, you're here, you see water in it, you know you're good. And then we put our wiring inside an old 1.5-inch stainless steel milk line that goes right down into the concrete. And then there's an elbow on the end. Actually, I think I got a milk line elbow inside the concrete that goes into the tube that's underneath this. So my wiring is 100% protected. So whatever bumps this, or you get the salt from the feeds or whatever, or the mice or whatever, it's protected here. This whole manger, now this is 2x10s, full 2-inch by 10-inch white oak that came out of our woods. The one on the bottom, one on the top. Now, the manger's 6 inches higher than where the cattle stand. And this curb is 16 inches off of where the cattle stand, and with the 10-inch planks. So you're 26 inches up to her brisket here. And typically that's breeding size heifers and up, so that works pretty good. Then we got a full 2x4 white oak again, and I just have them spiked to this, and then they're bent on the backside. You could bolt them too. We thought of it. I mean, I guess we had this like this in the old barn, it held up pretty good, so we decided to go the same route. In any kind of cattle barn, I'll always swear by this, where you have the iron on top of the curb, get your posts out of the dirt, get them up on the curb, get them up on the wall. Well worth it. You're going to be building your barn again if you don't. And then on top, some were talking, well, we could put steel up there, we could leave it open, and we decided to just decorate at the same time, and it actually really gets a lot of conversation out of it. That's just 1x8 boards, again, sawed from white oak where we cleared some pasture for some old trees. And it's a simple cut. It's all square cuts. We just figured out a pattern, and so every cut is the same. And this mirror fount, this was already here with the old barn. And I don't necessarily recommend them. They work and we have them, so we just continued using it. But again, we used to just have a gate with a couple rungs cut away. But then we got to thinking we're gonna have to figure out something better. So we got some old scrap iron, and I designed this whole thing in the shop, and it's actually a 2-piece system. We brought over here with the pallet fork and pieced it together, set it inside our forms. This was several days to get this all lined up, but it's kind of a yard frontage. For ventilation on top, we overhung from the peak to the overhang is 3 feet. And then there must be about an 8-inch gap up there. And I didn't want to buy no fancy vents or anything like that, but it's facing the east. And in our valley, it goes north and south. And our other barn was built that way back in '93, and there was only one winter storm that I had snow coming in that hole. Otherwise, it seemed to blow the other way. It worked pretty well. And that was something that I had our rafter company custom make that overhang, so that we didn't need a ridge cap or any type of ridge venting extra. And then up here, we left that ridge open too, about 8 inches on both sides. Our ventilation is more in the top. You want air movement, but you don't want it to be windy, drafty.
All right, so there's something really important that we forgot to talk about that's really unique to this building. So the entire building is built to grade. And for those of you that don't know what that means, in a conventional construction like setting or site, to start off, an excavating crew would come in and create an entirely level pad or place to build a building. So most buildings are built on a completely level surface, but this barn was built on a slope. And the reasons for that, it allowed us to utilize a lot of room because it's kind of in a tight spot. If we were to level out the entire site, it would take up a lot of extra room. We would lose a lot of ground, creating banks in the front or the back of the barn. So it fits our yard very well, building it to the grade. All right, so some key things to touch on from front to back. The building is at about a 4% slope. So with a 90-foot long building, that's just under 4 feet of drop. And then from the far bedding pack side of the barn to the manger, that's at about a 2% slope, which with the width of the building, that would be just under a foot of slope. So the barn is sloping downhill from the far back corner all the way to the far front corner. The rafters and the posts are all level. So the building was built using strings in order to make that happen. It obviously took a lot of thought and a lot of planning in order to get this right, because we wanted the rafters and the building itself to look level, but the concrete pad and the mangers and the lot area all to slope downhill. All right, so that is it for the video. We really appreciate those of you that stuck around to the end. I hope you guys maybe took a couple things away from it and might implement it into your own barns or setups. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.